Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
Well, g'day folks, how you going? Hope you've had a pretty good sort of a Wednesday. Michelle Lee has had a bloody great Wednesday. I think that is about the best way to explain how her day... Well, let's have a look how her day started, shall we? So you can see this is her just off the boat. These pictures aren't mine. I'll explain why in a minute. But you can see here she's just being greeted by friends and family who are there for her. Oops, I'll put that back up. That is, I think, Nikki, her mate, who's been looking after everything here seaside, or rather landside, for the last few days. Michelle got off the boat this morning at 9:49 a.m. 237 days, I think it was, although there are reports it's 240. I'm sure she'll tell us exactly how many. She was grabbed and has done a bit of television there this morning, a couple of interviews with local media, who I'm pretty sure that you will see on your local news bulletin somewhere around the country tonight. I think that guy there is her doctor. Now, he was the first one she got to touch after 8 months at sea, and the first thing he did was stick a needle into her. She's been doing a thing on her blood, if you like. They've been testing something through her blood with what she's been eating, and they're looking to see what those results are. So he's got a vial of blood out of her, untainted from anything else, after 8 months. And yeah, she spent a bit of time there this morning, got the bottle of champagne out. This is the, I guess, the best moment to begin with for her. I can tell you this cork went a mile. It actually shot right over the top, nearly cleaned up a cameraman. She gets a bit excited here. Oh, the anticipation. And there it went. It actually went a mile, nearly wound up over on the land. She got to have a mouthful out of the bottle. Her favourite champagne, or what do we call it now? Sparkling wine, I think we're allowed to call it these days. And then she sprayed the maid. That's the Australian maid, M-A-I-D. What an amazing craft. And christened her home, if you like. Absolutely spectacular. So that's Michelle arriving back home today. And yeah, it was great to see a crowd there. G'day to Dave and Rachel, who were standing there when I turned up. Yeah, okay, I was late, all right? I was about 6 minutes late, if I'm honest. Got stuck behind a truck coming from Cairns. Yeah, I know, excuses. But if you've ever driven along the road between Port Douglas and Cairns and get stuck behind a truck, you'd probably understand why it can get a bit slow in places. And that 6 minutes was lost, and a few more, but got there. And was able to go and take some fabulous photos. So, well, I don't know if they're fabulous. You can be the judge of that. I just want to, I can't really show you enough of this boat. I wasn't allowed to get onto it. And Michelle had gone off to go and get a medical test done. And I got up close with the maid and her brother, Tony. We had a great chat. And he was such a wonderful support to her as she crossed. In fact, he said there at one stage that he took a couple of days off work and just didn't want to miss her calls because she was out in the middle of nowhere. He was worried sick about her. I think it was around about the time she had the shark land on her deck, sort of a 1.5 meter shark landed on her deck chasing a fish. she scarpered back inside her little hole. That's not the little hole. That's another little hold up the front of the maid. That is the bow you're looking at the top of the picture there. Her little hole is that one there. With the big square door in the back. And it's hard to give you a reference size, but the best or the only way that Tony would describe it, her brother, is like living in a single seat Hilux. That's about how much room you've got, a single cab Hilux. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the depth, width, and length, I guess, of what she had to hide. I mean, she's only little, let's be serious. There isn't a lot to her. You can see there that if you zoom in a bit close, you'll see how much crap is still hanging off the rudder from that ocean trip. And I'm not sure that we'll see the sideboards you can see bottom of the corner there. There's some fins sticking out the bottom of the maid. It's right at the very bottom of that shot. Now, that's almost like a dagger board. She's got one each side that can be lifted up, but I guess they will act as some form of stabilizer for her when she's in the ocean, in the open ocean, and certainly makes it a little more stable as she's crossing too. That's just behind where she rows, or in fact in front. She's looking at that when she rows. And that's a oxygen supply and a few other bits and pieces there. How's that for a set of worn out foot rests? I mean, seriously, she's done some pushing into those 14,000 kilometres. And I just wonder, wish there was a stroke counter on the oars. We'd know how many strokes there were. That's a little bit of a look of what she had sitting there beside her where she rows. You can see that there's food there. There's cans of food, got a little bit of rust on them. She's fully prepared, keeps her meals up all the way. Got the knife there just in case something climbs in and it needs to be put away with. And I dare say a great coffee cup, but not used for coffee. Anyway, that's a bit of a look at the maid. Got some lovely photos of her today. And Michelle has caught up with friends and family and gone to bed. She's rowed all night. And I expect that tomorrow, I hope, we'll be able to catch up and have a bit of a chat. She's been guarded fairly hard at the moment, not necessarily by Channel 9 either, which was good. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. With a bit of luck, we will catch up with her. But this has been by no means a wasted trip. We'll get onto that shortly. You may have been watching, and if you were, tisk, tisk, tisk. But if you were watching the ABC last night, you would have seen a show on 7:30, the 7:30 report. The 7:30 propaganda report, I think, is probably the best way of describing it. You might recall a couple of weeks ago, we had Darren Bergwerf on from My Place telling us that he'd had Emily from the ABC turn up and do a bit of a show. Hello, Darren. He's arrived at a new My Place event that's happening tonight for the first time in Rosebud, I think it is. And I think this is one of the few times you've appeared on the show, Darren, without high vis on. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, Carl. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. So ABC last night, the 7:30 report, they came along, they asked a lot of questions, they talked to a lot of people, and in 9 minutes last night, they tried very hard to stick it into you and brand, I think, My Place as something it certainly is not. How did you wake up this morning after looking at last night's ABC review?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting kind of 10 minutes or 9 minutes that they put up after spending 4 hours with everybody. And look, I knew that they were going to go to some kind of effort to, to paint a picture. And that's okay. I don't have an issue with it. They can do what they're going to do. There's only one not minor, but there's one regret as on part of that interview that they aired on Monday night, which I am going to address. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. I'm going to address that before the end of the week. That's very important that I do that. But as for the rest of it, look, I've already picked probably 10 holes in their report. There's a lot of false and absolutely incorrect information, so they haven't done any research. on certain things. Talking about the red enzyme being the marine flag is false. Saying that we aren't interested in, that we don't believe we come under the law of the land is also very false, because that's exactly the law that we want to be under. We don't want to be under Admiralty law. So there's a heap of things that I'm going to be looking at potentially taking legal action on some of it, because they are painting a picture of our community as being sovereign citizens, which we know is bullshit. There's no such thing. And conspiracy theorists. So I don't see how they can paint a picture of 40,000 plus people around Australia as being a sovereign citizen. I mean, I could get every one of those up on a stand in a witness box, and I can assure that not one of them would identify as being a sovereign citizen. So that is very false, misleading, and slanderous remarks that actually put us in peril because of what's happening in Queensland and the narrative that the mainstream media Muppets are actually portraying about what sovereign people are. So I think it's very damaging, and we're going to be looking at what legal action potentially we can take for the misrepresentation and the false reports. And that's only a couple of issues.
I've got that piece here. I just played that so folks know what you're talking about.
You know I'm all about that bass no tremble. All about that bass no tremble.
Now that I think about it, that's the unedited version of it. It's going to go through, play all 9 minutes of the clip. We won't get to it. But yeah, they call the red ensign something it is not. They certainly mention sovereign citizens. I'm interested in this one bloke they wheeled out. His name is Josh Roos, or Ruse, and I think a ruse is what he is. The ABC wheeled him out for this magnificent comment of 27 seconds in length.
In a democratic society, people are allowed to hold extreme views. They're allowed to hold fringe views. The major concern here is the potential for that, however, to not only translate into violent extremism, where people actually seek to enact that through violent means, but also anti-democratic extremism.
Right, so that guy, a professor, Josh Roos, comes on for 27 seconds. He talks about violent extremism. He talks about potential for groups to come together and have these, possibly violent thoughts. Now, I would argue that any group in the country has potential for violence, from your local football club to your local Lions club. Okay, the violence might be at different levels and different stages, but there is absolutely no indication, no basis, in fact, for him to accuse, and he didn't, let's be honest, accuse My Place by name, but the ABC have gone and found this bloke and dug out that little golden comment, 27 seconds worth of bullshit in 9 minutes of crap about My Place. I'm not surprised, but yeah, I would think that there'd be a lot you could move forward on in this, the implications or how he's trying to align you.
We've already got some dirt on him and his university and the push to teach all kinds of depravity in primary schools with teaching children about masturbation, all that kind of stuff. So we can paint a picture of who he is as well. Look, we've got this whole exercise of and a lot of people say, "Oh, you're mad. What are you doing it for?" There's a reason to do everything, and these guys. One, we've got to kind of interact. Two, we've had 1,500 people have joined My Place since Monday night, the last 48 hours, and we have a lot of left-leaning people that have joined and are in discussions on our chats. And are getting a little bit of information from a different matrix to the one that they're in. So I think everything, a lot of stuff that I do might come across as being a little bit abrasive or out there, but it's for a reason, and it's there's so much discussion going on around the country in the last 2 days about this issue. Cairns News has just done a hit job on Emily, the reporter, on how biased she was. I'm in communication with her still. I am red pilling her. I am sending her stuff by text message to try and get her to see another side, and that's important that we kind of we do that as well. So yeah. I don't have any issues on how I get painted or whatever, but at the same time, they have to be factual. If I do a misstep or I've made a mistake, I will own that mistake, and I'll sort that out, and I'll apologise if I need to apologise, and I'll do what I've got to do. But when you start labelling everybody with the one brush, or then you are that to me is not within their statute, charter, or their guidelines that the ABC need to work with, and we are investigating all of that. We've got people looking through, how they're supposed to operate as a media department, and they've broken many of their own rules. So we're going through the whole thing. I've picked out potentially 8 to 10 things myself, where we can take action. So we'll just see how that plays out. But what it's certainly doing is creating a massive storm. Some of the storm is not good. Most of it is good, because that's what we're here to do, is to basically bring things to the head and make sure that there is open discussion from both sides of the fence, rather than just the one narrative that we've been getting for the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, and take the emotion out of it. We should be able to discuss this without the emotion. It didn't happen to us. It may have happened to some family members. It may have happened to people you may know, but it didn't necessarily happen to you. And the part that you're referring to, I think you handled particularly well. We weren't there. Victors always get to write history. The victor always writes the history, and the victor never did anything wrong. Remember that.
I don't know that I did handle it exactly right. And look, like I said, I'll deal with that in the correct way in the next couple of days. That's been organised already. But for the rest of it, though,
I think you'd be pleased to know that Cherie Romaro has been appointed to review the ABC operations. Now, that name probably won't ring a bell to you, but anybody in the radio industry will ring a big bell to. Cherie Romaro is a renowned manager in the commercial radio industry, a leader, certainly kicked in the glass ceiling and went straight through it, kept on going. She is a doyen in our industry, highly respected, wonderfully respected woman. And she is going to go in. She knows radio inside out, has been living and breathing it forever. She's walking into the ABC to do this review, and have no doubt that things like what you've pointed out, and that the reporting bias that's been shown, will not be slipped past her. I would be very disappointed to find Cherie Romaro comes back with a report that says, "Ida's doing a great job." I'd be very surprised. Cherie Romaro is known for her radio acumen, her broadcast acumen, put it that way, and I think she will be a great asset to the people once she gets her teeth into the ABC. Look, I know you've got a night happening tonight at Rosebud, another new My Place kicking off tonight, and I know you've got to get a feed. I have been contacted by people in Cooktown. There is movement to get a My Place happening in Cooktown, mate. So it's only 4.5 hours up the road. Guess where I'm going?
Oh, mate, Cooktown that'd be awesome. I've never been there. I've never been past Port Douglas. I kind of have. I've been out to Cape Trib, but Cooktown would be really good, mate. I'd be keen to get up there at some stage in maybe July or August to have a look up there. But look, we haven't really been pushing expansion at the moment. We're still building. I'm actually supposed to be on a Zoom tonight with our My Place geeks who are doing all the work in the background, getting the website up and running. And all the email addresses and the whole structure of what we need to implement before we move forward too much further. So, but we still are getting new groups. But look, if you've got to contact
taking
someone
expressions
in
of interest, is that the way to put it? Taking expressions of interest.
Yeah, that's it. We have started new Port Adelaide this week, and so they're off and running. But we're
and
just slowed down a little bit.
Congratulations to Vince and his crew at My Place Manham. They've now got themselves a permanent home at the showgrounds.
Oh, awesome! Well, I hadn't even heard about that, and I'm supposed to be on a Zoom with Vince at the moment.
No, well,
but that's okay. I said I'd squeeze them in. Look, I'm not an IT. I sit there most of the night and just kind of listen, and I've got no idea what they're talking about half the time. So it's probably not that important that I'm there for the whole thing. I think last time we were on for 3 hours. But yeah, look, there's a lot of work going on in the background. There's a lot of work going on with the Indigenous in the background also. There's a lot of work going on with the Palace of Law Hayden, with Daryl O'Brien and Spiros and those guys. They've set up a new office. So there's so much happening that people don't see. Look, I'm not that fussed about what's happening overseas, to be honest. I haven't been for quite some time. It's irrelevant, and the quicker people switch off waiting or looking and watching on what's going on overseas and concentrate on what's going on in their suburb or their town, I think the better off we're going to be. But look, I thought the ABC last night did Monday night did a couple of things that I think it's going to reunite a lot of the freedom movement that have been fractured since Canberra, and hopefully they're going to come and want to be part of what we're doing because they can see that we're having an effect at our local councils. So hopefully we're going to get massive numbers of the freedom movement to come back and join us at My Places. And the second thing I think is the left side can actually see now just how big a pushback there is of people that aren't going to put up their bullshit political correctness any longer. So they're going to have a meltdown. So look, I think regardless of the outcome, except for one issue, is the only thing that I was not happy with. But as for the rest of it and all the kickback and all the sovereign citizen stuff, I think it's all going to be positive. We're going to get way more positive news out of this than we are negative.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Mate, I know you've probably got a steak on the way and you're about to stand up and do a speech, so I'll let you go. Have a great night in Rosebud. Pass on my best to My Place Rosebud for me.
I will do. Thanks, Carl. See you later.
Cheers, bud. Have a good one, mate. Darren Bergwerf, wonderful man. My Place Rosebud kicking off tonight with their first meeting. I did see an interesting question roll back up here. Interesting question. What does LMTFA actually mean? Well, you might get a little bit upset at this one, although, Scott, I'm sure you've got a broad mind. That is Leave Me the Fuck Alone movement. Coined at first point, I must admit, by John Wilson and not me. But I do think that the Leave Me the Fuck Alone movement deserves, well, if not a sticker, an iron-on patch, possibly. A Velcro patch. That's what we do these days, don't we? We like to stick them on Velcro. Thanks to Darren for coming on tonight and having a bit of a chat. It is important that My Place is seen to be what it really is. And if you've ever been to a My Place, you'll know that it's just genuine people like you, like me, concerned about the issues of the day. I have had some representations from people who know a troll that has been fairly popular in my chats of the last few weeks, but hasn't been recently. I think someone blocked her. Oh, me probably. At any rate, I've had some representations. She might be willing to talk. I don't know if that is the case. I'd have to unblock her email too, I guess, or go to the junk folder or wherever it actually gets sent to see if she sent me an email. Look, I don't know if I'm even interested. I don't think that they've got anything to offer. The trolls have yet to bring anything to the party, so trolls, don't hold your breath. Far North Queensland, what an amazing place, folks. Do yourself the proverbial Molly Meldrum favour. I shouldn't want to really use his name because we know where that's going to end up. Do yourself a favour. Take the kids, the missus and the dog for a holiday in Far North Queensland. Keep a good eye on the dog. There are things with large teeth. They tend to chew on them a bit. We haven't lost chili, don't worry. No problems with chili, but yeah, just be a bit careful with the shirts. With the shirt, I've just seen somebody say we need some "Leave Me the Fuck Alone" t-shirts. Yes, I reckon we can organise that. Oh, I've still got some hats left, not many. So if you want a white hat, please email me, carl@vofhq.com. I do have some with us in the car, so if you want one and you see us while we're on the trip, you can have one. You can contribute to the ongoing costs for treatment for one of the family, our Freedom family, and we will make sure that she gets that money. Cooktown, coming to Cooktown by the looks of it. Now, Rhonda, I've rung and left you a message. You haven't rung me back, or maybe you have. I'm not sure. Don't know. Maybe work on a different time in Cooktown. I hear it's a bit different. There is some big things happening in Cooktown over Easter. Apparently, there is something happening with the Lions Club on Saturday. There is a big bunch of music things happening on Sunday. And Monday, I guess, we just recover and try and stay away from the Crocs. At any rate, we're going to go for a cruise to Cooktown and meet the fabulous folks up there. Apparently, there's a bit of a group. There is a tavern. It's going to be hot. I can probably feel a great northern or two coming my way. And I hope to share one with a few locals in Cooktown. So we'll come up Friday and we'll hang around for as long as you'll have us. We will also head back and when we do head back, catch up with a group in Tolga. So if you're keen to catch up in Tolga, I think at this stage it could be Tuesday. It might be Monday, but could be Tuesday. And we'll have lunch in Tolga and Cairns. Well, still looking for a venue, funnily enough. It's been difficult with Michelle running around back and forth between one place and another and trying to be around at the appropriate time. However, that seems to have finished. We were going to take a drive to Kuranda Rainforest tomorrow if we don't get an interview with Michelle. Figure we've come this far, we may as well go and have a look at it. Yes, we should take the train. Yes, we should take the Sky Rail. In fact, we could take the train or the Sky Rail. The fact of the matter is it's a bit expensive and we got a dog. And if it wasn't the tickets expensive, then I can tell you, dog minding in Cairns. There's an opening here, a big opening. There's clearly not enough people doing it. At any rate, we can take her up in the car. So I think that's what we'll end up doing tomorrow if we don't get an interview with Michelle. But I'll be hanging around pretty much solidly all day to try and catch up with Michelle. Of course, she'll be still recovering. And I imagine probably sleeping a great deal for the first time. She'll be in a bed tonight or today that isn't rocking for the first time in 8 months. You've got to be pretty happy about that. Crunch, what's going on here? You've got information about the Aboriginals in Darwin and they're running rampant in Darwin and the Aboriginals are getting away with anything and the Light Man does anything towards them in jail. All right. Okay. So something's going on up there, Crunch. We'll have to get to it and have a bit of a chat. I am working on some contacts up there at the moment. I believe that there are a great deal of things happening in Darwin at the moment, particularly to the Aboriginal people. Most of it relates to how many jabs they're getting and how much money they get paid for having them. $500 a time. Now, we know that the jabs are having an effect, not only a serious physical effect with the likes of heart attacks, myocarditis, pericarditis, blood clots, strokes, palsies, all that sort of crap. But we also know that some of these kids have had up to 9 shots. And there are kids every day falling over on the street dead and just being swept under the carpet by the NT government. So there is some awful shit happening in the NT at the moment. And yes, we will be working on going to the NT and trying to bring you some of those stories, as horrible as they are. You're going to have to learn about them because we need to know about it. This has to stop. This has to stop. It's happening to our children. It doesn't matter what color that child is. It's a child. So I won't hear an argument that, we've done everything to help. We've done everything to help. I don't care what you think you've done. You haven't done enough. They're still doing shit to children. And throwing money at the problem isn't the answer. I firmly believe that. And I know that a lot of Australians would agree. Throwing money at it is not the answer. We don't trust the bureaucrats with the money. We certainly don't trust the land councils with the money. They've had billions of dollars over the years, billions of dollars. And where has it gone? Well, they're all dressed very well. I'll say that for them. Love to know where they live. Love to know what they drive. But I'm bloody sure that the money that the land councils get does not go where it needs to go. And yes, I understand we face significant problems in those communities, in those regional communities particularly. Alcoholism is a real problem. We need to find those solutions as a community, as a group. We need to find those solutions. And yes, it'll be uncomfortable for some people because they do have a bias. They do think that the Aboriginal people have been given everything and given a free fair go for this and a free lump up for that. And then there is the argument from others who say, well, listen, all the Aboriginal people have been kept down and kept down and kept down, you know, since the white fella got here. There are two sides to the coin and they're both right. So we need to agree that they're both right and get a new fucking coin. One where we're united on both sides. Because that's the only way this is going to stop. Yes, there will be shit white fellas. Yes, there will be shit black fellas who try and rip the system off. But if there are good people like you helping with this whole awakening thing, backing us up, that's the shit people are going to be very, very exposed very early and dealt with. But we have to do this together, folks. And yeah, what's happening in the Northern Territory, and I only know a very small fraction of it. So Crunchy, yes, we will get together and chat, mate. We'll have to try and find out what's going there. But I'm horrified by some of the things that I've heard from David Cole in the last, a little while before I came up here. Limper's out at the moment on country with a group, teaching them about culture, teaching them about country. And that's a thing I think most Australians, all Australians, need to learn. I've found myself being quite envious of the Kiwis because white, black, brown, brindle, it doesn't matter. You all get to learn. Maori's only one language, I suppose, and there's a lot of Aboriginal languages, but I couldn't tell you too many Aboriginal words that have a great meaning. Certainly couldn't put a sentence together in one unless I was using surnames or band names. And that's embarrassing and sad. We should have a better education about our Indigenous brothers and sisters and their culture, their history, which is our culture and history. I embrace it. I was born here. Why wouldn't I embrace it? You know, maybe I feel a bit differently because I'm adopted. You know, gives me that sort of little break. I don't know. But that's just the way that I feel about it. I feel we should be learning, embracing the culture, growing the culture. They have so much amazing things that they can teach. We can learn from medicines, herbal medicines, foods, traditional living, just grounding. How many of you have gone to a weekend session to learn how to put your feet in the grass and ground yourself? Didn't need to do that. Our locals have been doing it all their lives. All their lives. Got me thinking about it yesterday while I was traveling through the oldest rainforest on Earth. The oldest rainforest on Earth, that's the Daintree. And the oldest humans on Earth, the oldest humans in existence, known to be in existence, are the Aboriginals. 40,000+ years old, at least in this timeline. So, to me, that's a huge amount of history we've got to learn about and we can be very proud of. We've just got to find the right way to unite. And I hope one of you has an idea. If you do, bring it to us. I'm going to keep throwing them up. Nobody says I've got the right ideas, and I certainly don't claim to have the right ideas often or all the time, or any of the time, if I'm honest. But I do hope that you are capable of coming up with an idea. One of you will be. That's the thing. Somebody very smart once said, the solution is always available to every problem. All you have to do is ask the room for the solution. Well, you are the room. So how do we make this work? How do we bring our black and white communities together? How do we put away animosity? And I know it's very difficult at the moment when we see vision like we are coming out of Alice Springs and Darwin to put a lot of that aside, because it's violent, it's degrading, it's embarrassing, it's humiliating, and that's just for me watching it. I can't imagine what it's like for those who are participating in it. Fortunately, I suppose they wake up the next day with the hangover and maybe no recollection of what's happened, fortunately or unfortunately. Those sorts of things are happening, and they're happening more and more on the streets in the Northern Territory and other places. We need to reach out. We need to find a way. Okay, I know we've tried reaching out one way and the other. I know the easiest and most reactive way we have of reaching out is if we've got money in our hand while we're reaching out. Well, that's got to stop. And that's going to take the elders of these communities to stand up and make that happen. We need the elders to stand up and tell their young people about commitment, community, respect, and responsibility. Taking responsibility for your own actions. Knowing that you don't have to commit a crime. There's nothing compelling you to commit that crime out of, want for money or desire or just an act of violence. We need to be able to give those sorts of people another way out, or if they do want to continue committing those sorts of crimes, then unfortunately we build bigger prisons and more will go into them if that's what they choose to do. But we have to find a bridge, folks. We just have to. They are killing our children on the streets with this. And the ones they're not killing, a good many of them they're stealing and doing God knows what to before they kill them too. So I really want us to be able to, have a look at that. Some other things I want to show you tonight, folks. The next big scare is on the way. So we've had Donald Trump being arrested. He's gone through the process of the indictment. Still can't believe that came out of a professional newsreader's mouth. But anyway, Donald Trump was indicted. DA Bragg, true to his name, stood up in front of the media afterwards, gave a long, lengthy soliloquy of all the reasons why he put 34 charges up against Trump, and then embarrassed himself for the next 5 or so minutes when he couldn't answer the questions, at least not in any reasonable fashion, that the media were putting to him. I've got to say one thing. The media were not incurious about this one. The media were actually pushing him. So is that a swing in mainstream media? I don't know, too little too late if that is the case. I don't think it's going to work. So Trump now, having been arraigned, flew back to Mar-a-Lago and held a press conference at about 8:30, I think 3 or 4 hours after he got back. Now, obviously, he said what you'd expect him to say in that press conference, in that it's all stupid, it's all unfair, can't believe it's happened, the people aren't doing anything, This is not going to be a long process, folks. What happens now is that Donald Trump will not have to appear again in a court until December the 4th. That's because the defense get to file motions, and they have to be filed, I think, before August. And then the prosecution get to file their motions by September the 19th. That then gives the judge time to look at both motions and make some formative decision. He didn't demand that Donald Trump returned on the 4th, but did suggest he should. So we can probably expect Trump back there on the 4th of December. This from a trial judge who said he didn't want to have this drawn out for any longer than it needed to be. So what sort of motions are going to be put forward by the defense, and what sort of motions by the prosecution are going to be put forward that are taking the next better part of 7 months is beyond you and me. Or is it? Could it be that they will drag this out into 2024 and into the election run. So Trump will be not only running for president, but he'll be having to appear in court, supposedly to answer these charges, these trumped up felony charges. I mean, God, to see what they've actually done with these charges is staggering, and just sad, The Democrats really are reaching for the nails in the bottom of the barrel here. I don't think they've hit the bottom of the barrel yet, but this is one of the nails, and they're pulling it out with their fingernails. It's just pathetic to see what's going to happen, and it will get thrown out. There is absolutely no way, unless it is a biased judge, a biased jury, that he can gain a conviction. Why? Because Trump holds an affidavit signed by Stormy Daniels saying that not only did she not take any money from him, but she owes him for his legal costs. That happened when the federal DA department, the DOJ, tried to have a go at Trump in 2017 with Stormy Daniels, and it all died because it never happened. Stormy Daniels signed that letter. Trump has that letter, and unless she's prepared to get up in a court and perjure herself, how can you be convicted for paying somebody off that you didn't have an affair with? I don't know. It's all a bit weird, but yeah. Services Australia, they're an interesting bunch of people. We'll get onto them very shortly. Joe Biden is ramping up the fear at the moment. He's a bit concerned about Russia. What a surprise. Cyber attack.
Look, today my administration is issuing new warnings that based on evolving intelligence, Russia may be planning a cyber attack against us. As I said, the magnitude of Russia's cyber capacity is fairly consequential, and it's coming. The federal government is doing its part to get ready, but under U.S. law, as you all remember, the private sector, all of you, largely decides the protections that you will or will not take.
Hear where he's going with that? You, the people in America, get largely to decide how they protect you from a cyber attack from Russia. How many of your liberties, how many of your freedoms online are you prepared to give up? That's what he's saying. That's the only way that they can protect you, by giving you a Chinese-style internet where they can unplug you if they so desire. Stop you getting undesirable information from people. Could it be that the Russians have not planned a cyber attack? They're too busy planning physical attacks in the Ukraine? Not according to Biden's sycophants.
Urging private sector partners to take immediate action to shore up their defenses against potential cyber attacks. We've previously warned about the potential for Russia to conduct cyber attacks against the United States, including as a response to the unprecedented economic costs that the U.S. and allies and partners impose in response to Russia's further invasion of Ukraine. Today, we are reiterating those warnings, and we're doing so based on evolving threat intelligence that the Russian government is exploring options for potential cyber attacks on critical infrastructure in the United States.
Look out. Get scared. Ramp it up. I'll tell you what, the only cyber attacks that have been happening are the ones that come out of TikTok. At least that's what the Australian government would have you believe. Remember, only yesterday, Albert Sleazy came out and said, no more TikTok on any government devices. We'll have none of that. They could be spying. They could be spying. Well, maybe it's the Australian government that's doing this.
You know how the US wants to ban TikTok? And the Australian government is like, as of next week, no government workers can have TikTok because it's a security issue because of the data and blah, 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 blah. Centrelink is currently using an Israeli company's password cracking software and accessing metadata retained for serious crime and national security reasons to investigate welfare recipients suspected of being in an undisclosed relationship. Sick as. So while I deeply respect everyone who is single for Centrelink, Just be aware that this is the technology they're using. I'm going to link the article in the comments. While Services Australia has said that Celebrite is only used for criminal investigations, data may be extracted from their devices before charges have been laid, and Services Australia may continue to pursue the debt as a non-compliance investigation even if the suspect is not prosecuted. A New South Wales mother said that although she was never charged with welfare fraud, Services Australia has pursued $80,000 she was alleged to have been overpaid after her data was extracted from her daughters, and her ex-partner's phones and computers. This lady was fucking raided by Centrelink. Although their devices were password protected, they, Services Australia, went through all our WhatsApp and Facebook messages. They were fucking raided because they share a disabled child. And even though they broke up, they had to still live under the same roof because the ex couldn't afford a second property, and the autistic son was stressed when he wasn't around. It just made me feel like I was a nobody and I had no rights. It is not clear what types of metadata are used to glean if welfare recipients are single. The Services Australia spokesperson told IT News that the key metadata we request enables us to identify records linked to telephone numbers or IP addresses to support criminal investigations. Like, just so we're all on the same page. Centrelink payments are not a waste of your taxpayer dollars. Shit like this is a literal waste of taxpayer dollars. They waste so much money. So much of your money, you, the Australian citizens. They take the money that they could be giving to poor people, disabled people. Instead of giving that money to the people who need it, they take that away, they double it, and they spend it on policing people and investigating people who may or may not secretly have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or may be spending a little too much time with their ex. Like, that's some scary shit, where it's actually more expensive to prevent poor and disabled people from getting access to resources, but they're willing to spend that extra money to make sure that poor and disabled people have nothing. Like, this is where your taxpayer dollars are being wasted on criminalizing poor and disabled people for being poor and disabled. It would be cheaper and better for the economy to just keep us alive, but they'll pay more to make sure that we don't make it.
Welcome to TikTok. Can't have it on your phone anymore if you're in the government, but the government is going to take all the information off your phone and use it against you. Not only your phone, your laptop, your iPad, whatever you got, and they'll take it off your iPad, your phone, your laptop, your PC, your MacBook, before they knock on your door and charge you with these offences. They're going to be hacking you using Israeli software that hacks passwords, right? They will bust through all your phone protections, find out, well, she was worried what sort of metadata they would be chasing. They would be able to chase every kind of metadata. Are you paying, who's paying the rent? What portion of the rent is being paid through which bank? Who's paying how much? What about electricity and other bills? Is the partner one paying anything special for medical expenses? The child's got issues. Maybe one partner's paying that, the other partner's not. Maybe the other partner is. There's somewhere in the mix there. Somebody is going to be telling the government that these people don't deserve as much money as what they're getting because they're living together. They hate each other. They've split up, but they can't afford to get into separate accommodation. May not be a matter of affording. It might just be a simple matter of there is none available. I saw on the local news here tonight, there is a local company here that is putting in pop-up accommodation, if you like, quite literally pop-up accommodation in container-sized units that are flat-packed and installed in about 20 minutes. They look amazing, ideal for small couple groups maybe. If you've got somewhere to put them up, ideal emergency accommodation. And I believe a number of them are still being used down in Lismore and the Northern Rivers of New South Wales after the floods for people who still have no accommodation down there. Accommodation is the big deal everywhere. Just out of pure curiosity, everywhere we travel through, we try and find out what it's worth to rent a house there. Now, yesterday we drove up to Daintree Village. There are no places to rent of any bedroom size or quality. nor are there in Mossman. I don't think there's too much in Port Douglas unless you're prepared to pay extraordinary amounts for rent. Cairns is pretty similar, and everywhere else we've been, just the same. You cannot get anywhere to live. There is no property, at least not available at a reasonable price for full-time employed people. It's amazing. I mean, it's harder for people like me who don't have a job, essentially. I mean, I do this, but it doesn't pay much, I can tell you. It only pays what you pay, and I guess that's the quality of the information. But anyway, it's just difficult to see how Centrelink are going to now penalise both of those people. Somebody's going to wind up paying a lot of money back, because the difference between having a de facto partner or somebody else living in the house paying half the rent and all that, to them is huge. And you'd think that they were giving you $1 million a week and you were ripping them off for it. Nothing could be further of the truth. I mean, I haven't been in a relationship where this was would have impacted at all at all, I don't think. But I know that there are probably some people out there that it may affect. So be very aware of what data you share on your phone. If you have access to each other's phone data, for instance, if you are able to get into each other's phone, you know each other's passwords, they're going to put that down as a mark that you are together, not separate. They are going to put all of this bullshit that just makes life easier in the current situations. They're going to put it all down as being in a relationship, and then they're going to try and take you to court and charge you. Well, one lady, she was mentioned in there, $80,000 worth of overpayments. I don't begrudge them tracking down people who are and have been overpaid. But don't go after them like they're criminals, because you're the fools, Services Australia, who overpaid them. It's your systems that made the mistake. And aren't we currently going through an inquiry about the robo-debt system that the Morrison government tried to put in, that put, I think, tens of thousands of people into a debt situation that they had no liability for at all. My daughter was one of them. God help that company, because I walked into them and gave them a mouthful. It didn't work out very well. I don't think I was allowed back in Burleigh for a while. But yeah, that's just a shit thing that is still showing great ramifications, and yet these latest fools think they've got the great solution. I don't know. It's when people like that are running the country, you really wish that, well, not that they weren't running the country, I suppose, just that they were out on the road and potentially looking at being introduced to a few of those dickheads who are out there on it, hey? And we can live with fingers crossed. Folks, I'll wrap it up for tonight. You have a great one. I've got to take my daughter out for dinner, and I think we are going to go to the Cairns market, night markets, and have a bit of a look. Never been there. Of course, with the dog, it's a bit difficult, I think, to walk through the Cairns night market. So it's one of those, I'll go in for 10 minutes, then you go in for 10 minutes kind of thing. But anyway, that's where we're going. See you at the Cairns market. If you're in Cairns, we'll be there in about half an hour. And folks, keep an ear out. Tomorrow, probably at the Cairns Marina, I will be trying to catch up with Michelle. And if there is a coffee shop, and I know there is, down that way, we will look forward to greeting anybody who wants to come down and say hi. I can't guarantee Michelle will be there. She has other commitments, but I'll certainly hang around for a little while if you want to catch up. And I'll do a live from there to say I'll be here for the next couple of hours or whatever. And if you want to come down, come down. If you don't, I'll just have a coffee and a sandwich and go home. It'll be all good. Have yourself a bloody good night, folks. Be safe if you're out there on the roads, and be careful of the dickheads, hey?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!